Hi, everybody. This is day 1628. I know I have my screen small because I wanted to share some pictures of the arms room if I can make it happen. This is crazy information coming in. What we know. This is day 1600. Yeah, everything is working. Okay. So what we know is that it's day 1628, around about that, a long time, over 4 years, and that Richard was whistleblowing. His whistleblowing case was before the murder case, okay? The whistleblowing case was before, and we know that the CID was in charge of responding to his whistleblowing. And that means it was Marlon Soto and Tavita Nusa. That's what that means. Um, we know that the CID has been up to no good. We've been assigned a new CID point of contact, which is interesting, especially, yeah. You have to know the circumstances. It's really lots of red flags, lots of red flags. So we know that Richard was whistleblowing, and we know that the allegations are the trafficking of weapons and ammunition. Um, and we have connected the Walmart mass shooting to Richard's unit. We have uh, I would um, I would say, let's just say the arms room, um, more and more confirmations are coming in. We require a double check. But what we are experiencing is more and more information and evidence coming in to us that confirms that the arms room was the crime scene. Absolutely the crime scene. And of course, we have 4 years of evidence and we have to dig for it. And one of them is a video. And it is of the arms room. And, number one, when all of this started, we did not know that Richard was a whistleblower. It wasn't until Belen Rocha alerted us to it. It was Belen Rocha that alerted us to it, and then we investigated. And it started making all sense, right? Especially with the audits for the weapons and the ammunition. Ammunition is a big thing that they traffic. Um, and then the information coming in about the brown tip bullets and the green tip bullets. And of course, that connection, the bullet sales by Nadal Baim to the El Paso Police Department. Not that he sold it, but that he was bidding to sell them up to $3 million in ammunition through Western, what is it? Western Trade. Sorry, it's very, very late. It's very late through their, it'll come to me, through their LLC. And, and he is connected to Bradford Bugado, G330 of Richard's 32nd ATCOM, right? In the G3. And more connections that are not too nice, right? That are not too nice. So, knowing that Richard's platoon leader was Dallas Hart, and Dallas Hart's mother is Leilani Hart, and Dallas Hart's father is James Courtney Hart. And the bragging and showcasing and parading around that, she controls the CID because of her family member that she was having intimate relations with, CID Tavita Nusa. And then also what we know with the director of security, Thomas Kane, um, saying that they illegally ordered the renovation of the arms room. Now, I want to show part of this video because I think it's important for everyone to realize that it's not a separate building. It's in the basement. It's a basement room of the building in which Richard lives. And it's just a place where they keep their arms, right? And their ammunition. It's in the basement. And basement is a very concerning crime scene. And it makes sense that they would forcibly remove him because we absolutely know that they forcibly removed him from his room. And that they didn't have to take him very far. Okay, the basement room is right there. And why would this basement room have to get a full renovation? Right? When we have been given information about a positive hit by Borstar, and how can I say this? This is my son, um, evidence of his remains in the HVAC. So, the leadership here, what we want you to know is that Richard is a volunteer soldier. He's 18 years old. He had just turned 21. And there seems to be a very wicked scheme that is creating a lot of criminal activity on our military installations. And I can say that because the problem is Fort Hood, the problem is Fort Bragg, and of course I gave them new names, Fort Liberty and Cavazos, but Fort Camp Pendleton, and I can go on about Fort Stewart, about the criminal activities. It's a systemic problem, and so that means that the leadership is in on it. That it's just y'all. We can't be afraid to say what is true. And Richard he joined the army with aspirations to be a CID agent, right? He wanted to serve. Of course he wanted to get an education. Of course he wanted to save money. He had Bitcoin. Um, we know that his identity was stolen. We know that for a fact. Hold on, I need some tea. And it is very clear that the military leadership had motive to lie to us, had motive to cover this up, especially after Gregory Morales was found while looking for Vanessa Guillen and then Vanessa Guillen's remains were found by the wild animals. They did not want anyone to find. They didn't think that um, the Guillen family would ever find their daughter. Um, the burial of her remains were so sophisticated, and it was really an act of God. So, um, and thank God. So they had so much motive to withhold the information that Richard was a whistleblower, and they did. Confirmed. And they had tons of motive to withhold the fact that Richard was murdered. And they did until April 24th of 2024. The DOD confirmed it, that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And they have every motive. And that was not because of the goodness of their heart, okay? That was a lot of hard work on our part, to drive them to, a legal position that they had no choice but to give us some truth, right? And they have Richard's remains, because they would have never done that if they didn't have Richard's remains. I can tell you that right now. So they confirmed that he was murdered on Fort Bliss, and they had every intention to withhold that information from us. And they have every intention to withhold the information of, well, not information, but our son's remains. Our son's remains. And because at this point, the crime is so big and they're looking at the death penalty, they have so much motive, right, to withhold our son's remains from us. They don't want the accountability. They rather beg for water in hell the rest of their lives. And I'm serious about that, because what they've done is so egregious. And when it's that egregious, the crime is not against all of us as it is, it's most importantly against God. So, yeah, um, they rather beg for water in hell for the rest of their lives than to do the right thing now. And, but, it's not working out for them. And that's the good news, because there are those that do not want to participate in the cover up. And they absolutely have been providing the truth uh, to us in an understanding way. And, when you have an experience like Electra, who came to us and said that Richard's torso was in the arms room, in the basement of his building, um, under the arms room, and then they call for an illegal full renovation with an open checkbook for that very arms room. That's a little shocking to the system, right? As the mother, as the family. And after Electra saying Richard's head is in this location, and his limbs are in this location, a different location. Um, and we know through our sources confirmation that Richard was dismembered, that he was in uniform. Yeah, it's really difficult to talk about. But this arms room, more and more evidence is coming forward that the arms room was the crime scene. So let me play this real quick and see how far I get. So this is Richard's building, and as you see, you know, the outside looks, there's no cameras, which is a failure of the leadership to provide security. And that is also, red flags. This is going down into the barracks, into the basement where the arms room is. And you see the arms room. This is a seal on the door, and a restricted area, and then a seal on the door. Yeah. Which indicates kind of a criminal crime scene. That's what that indicates, a criminal crime scene. So I think that is. See if I can make myself larger here. I don't want to cut off Richard. Okay, so that's what that looks like. You can go back and repeat it and replay it, but it is his building, and it's the basement room. So, the witness testimony that they were dragging him, that they forcibly removed him out of his room. They would, and Richard is a black belt in karate, okay? And he's very strong. Very strong. Um Very fast runner, very healthy. Uh, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if someone's teeth got knocked out, right? It wouldn't surprise me if someone's teeth got knocked out in the battle of dragging him out, unless they drugged him or something. And it really raises a lot of questions with the illegal order to fully renovate. What do you have to do on an arms room, right? Renovate. I mean, it's just where they store their weapons and ammunition. What are they going to do? Put another layer of concrete or something? I don't know. But it is pretty soundproof in there. So if you wanted to commit a crime, um, that would be the place, the basement with the thick concrete walls, and threats with weapons. That would be absolutely where you'd want to. And we know, because of what happened to Asia Graham. We know because of the 14-year-old girl living in the barracks being pimped out. We know of the videos that were taken of all these things that Richard was turning in. It, really, they could use those to blackmail, yet they don't have cameras outside of the barracks to keep our soldiers secure. They also, that puts up red flags, because if they're doing trafficking, weapons trafficking out of the arms room, and the leadership is in on it, they wouldn't put the cameras there, would they? They wouldn't want to do that. No, I don't think they'd want to do that, but um, that would be for the investigators to look into, wouldn't it? That's a suggestion anyway. That's what I would think they would look into. Um, so it is a place where we know that Dallas Hart has a allegations against him that are the worst type of crimes against children, and holding on to, well, the whole family, child porn, illegal weapons purchasing, um, the 7-year-old in the master bedroom by multiple members of the household. We know that this is a group that is perverse, uh, absolutely perverse. So perverts, can you call them perverts? Can you call them absolute felon criminals? Um, I don't know. It's and they're trying to label Trump this way. This whole thing with this judge, what's his name? I don't know what his. I know his name, but it's too late right now. Um, I think it's more about the judge. Just had a great discussion about all this, and I concur. I think it is absolutely about this judge. Um, trying to protect himself from investigations in 10 days, after 10 days. Maybe it's 9 days now because of all his illegal and conflicts of interest that he has. So, yeah, I just think it's like, okay, if I can put a seal on Trump, then, I can say, oh, he's retaliating against me or something. I don't know. I just think it's just, they're just one dirty actor after the other. But going back to Richard's case, and that all has to do with Richard's case because it has to do with the esprit de corps, the patriotism, the respect to the rule of law, the respect to the Department of Justice, um, your position as a judge. Clearly, this judge has no respect, the one that's trying to go after Trump, no respect for our country and for his position. Um, zero, zero. So um, it really does, and the politics are as solemn as I kind of sound right now, just because it's so late. Um, I'm really so much good news is coming in. Look at the information that we are getting about the arms room. Um, there's so much that I still can't. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but a lot is coming in, and one of the reasons why I'm not really happy about it, even though it's very positive developments, is because this is my son and this is a brutal murder. This is a brutal murder of my son. So, how else am I supposed to report on it? Right? I just have to report on it the way I possibly can. Um, because, there is an effort to, through the media, a smear campaign. And so someone has to report on what's really going on because we're not going to get it through the media, right? It's just so connected when you're connected to the Walmart mass shooting and connected to the cartel and connected to the Mormons. This is, the common denominator of these criminals are Mormons, so Mormons that are out there, they might, want to go like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can touch this. Um, but that's the truth of it. And if it was anyone else, I would say it too. But And of course, it's connected to the Mexican cartel, that, and the cartel that is there on the border. And it's been there, it's been there in El Paso, but it has absolutely, um, has moved forward, and infected our military installation and our military leadership. And they've been acting with impunity, their motivation, I guess it's they want to line their pockets. Um, and but we through this trafficking, right? It's very profitable, and but that needs to be something that the investigators look into. And I would recommend that they look into that because that's where the evidence is indicating. Um, Richard, then, and I know I'm being very careful with my words. The crime scene, I don't think could be anywhere else but in the arms room, in the basement, in a basement, and with the seal on the door and the unauthorized, very costly renovation. That came from uh, the director of security. So Thomas Kane confirmed that the arms room was um, illegally ordered to be renovated by the general. It was an illegal order. So I think we're getting very, very close. We're getting very, very close. When we can identify that they're cooperating with the media to put forth false narratives to the public, and then all of a sudden he has to step away from his job, uh, uh, we're getting very, very close. And I just want to thank everybody. Um, I want to thank everybody that has shared information with us and put all this together. Uh, the big call, and I hope that you write the FBI, I hope you write your representative, is to arrest Leilani Hart. That absolutely 100%. They're eh, absolutely 100%. Without a doubt, she needs to be arrested. And I mean, that's just the way it is. There's so much evidence against her that she has to be arrested. And I think that should, because she really hurts the community. She really hurts the community in so many ways. And she just cannot be allowed to act with impunity in a beautiful El Paso. And if you're, sick and tired of all the crime in El Paso and you have a bad taste in your mouth for El Paso, then let's do something about it. We're doing something about it because really, when you look at El Paso, it's a beautiful city. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, ancient city. And it's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for. Our son is worth fighting for. Our military is worth fighting for. They, at this point in El Paso, Fort Bliss needs to be shut down because the infiltration of the cartel into our system, the internal, um, the internal infiltration it needs to be worked out first. And until then, they cannot, you know, um, extort from our military in order to make themselves stronger, right? To thrive in their crime. So, because if they're thriving, they're going to be much harder to um, weed out and get our system working again for our country, for justice sake, for our military, for our most valuable assets, and not be, and for the people on the land, right? So right now, my feeling is that Fort Bliss needs to be shut down. I don't know if it's a forever thing, but it needs to be shut down. Right now, it's being called a death camp. It's being called a death camp, and it needs to be investigated, and it has to be shut down. It has to be sealed off, right? Like this basement room it has to be sealed off. It has to be investigated. So thank you so much, everyone. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.